Okay. So thank you for talking to me.
You bet. Thank you.
So I saw the first trailer, and it looks like a really cool concept, very interesting. And I was just wondering where that kind of idea came from.
The idea of doing this movie really came from the hope that there were still stories out there that were compelling and relatable that we had never heard before. My partner and I felt like we live in a world where every weekend we love to go to the movies, but these movies we see tell stories, and they tell them very well, many of them, but they tell stories we've heard 1,000 times before. We wanted to tell a story that you have never heard before, and we wanted to tell that story in a big, epic way, so that it was entertaining and exciting like these other films we go to on the weekend, but that it would also have something to do with the world that we live in today. And so the first thought that came to our mind was, well, the world we live in today is defined fundamentally by marketing. So my partner and I both have worked in marketing for years and felt we knew that world very intimately and could draw on our own personal experiences to write a story that would be informed by the truth and would tell it like it is, and be a story that you've never heard before.
Yeah, I definitely think it's like new and interesting. And so how did you go about picking, I guess, kind of which brands to include or like be inspired by? Because like I saw there's like one that looks like Microsoft and one that looks like Apple. And...
I'm glad you picked up on all of the shall we say, the winks, as it were, that one can have. I mean, well, we wanted to tell the story of the big brands the way they are. So for sure, the brands that really we feel are omnipresent and a big part of our lives are all in the film in one way or another. That we tried to have as many different creatures, as many different brands as possible, because that's of course the world that we live in. It's a world just full of millions of different brands. And then the biggest thing about our world today, that of course is I think different than it was 20 years ago, is that we ourselves have become brands. The YouTube generation of today is a world in which we're all allowed to, and in fact compelled to, make ourselves into brands. And in fact, as brands, we share videos with each other that define who we are on some level, or define our likes and our dislikes, and spread inadvertently the word and the messaging of advertisers for them for free.
So would you say like this movie is kind of like inspired by social media? Because I feel like you mentioned YouTube, and like we spread this message and like Twitter and everything.
I think it's a movie inspired by the world of marketing the way it is today, and for sure no one I think could say that the world of marketing has not been forever changed fundamentally by social media. I mean, like everything else in the world, social media has changed the world.
Yeah, it gives everyone their own voice, like you said, like projecting it out there.
It does. It gives everybody a voice. It also gives advertisers a whole new way of spreading the word of their product for free. There are 800 million people who go to YouTube, I think daily or weekly or something, and 4 billion views of different videos on YouTube daily. One thing advertisers are doing right now is they put videos at the front of videos that you go and watch and share. Those advertisers don't even have to pay half the time to put those videos at the front, those pay-for-play videos at the front of other videos, unless you decide to watch until the end of them. They're not charged for the advertising time. They're not literally charged for the advertising time,
so if I
unless you complete the view. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, if you press skip ad, they don't have to pay. That's the new world of advertising.
I had no idea, because I always skip the ad because I'm like, oh, I can finish it earlier.
Yeah, so I think it's something very powerful to think about, the fact that we all believe on some level that YouTube is such an empowering, freeing agent of a thing. At the same time, it's also giving advertisers a massive leg up on you, because for a hell of a lot cheaper, for astronomical amounts cheaper than the old TV advertising model used to hold, they're able to advertise literally specifically to you based on your tastes, and not be charged for it unless they actually make a meaningful connection with you, whereas they used to have to pay millions of dollars and not know if they even connected with you.
Definitely. So how did this movie like end up getting made? Like, did you and your partner like, what was the process of like having the idea, writing the script, and everything until it finally is coming to screens this fall?
Well, we both wrote it, exclusively produced it, and directed it together. So it really is a very dialogical and international form of creation, because my partner is Russian and lives in Moscow, and so there was a Skype, to give a brand out there, a Skype-driven process in which we went back and forth in multiple languages writing the script. Over not that long a period of time, frankly, but we had made a short film together that had found quite an audience, and at different film festivals around the world, we conceived of this movie and wrote most of the script.
And then how did it get like picked up by like a studio to get like? Did you do film festivals, or how did it get seen? So now it'll get into theaters.
Oh no, yeah. So we had specifically designed this film so that we could have complete creative control over it. We like to think of the film as being autonomous, not independent, but autonomous in that sense. And in order to make a film like that, you have to really kind of have an idea of where you're going from distribution from the beginning. Otherwise, and at the same time, you have to make the film without distribution, if that makes sense, because otherwise the distributor starts to tell you how to make the film. And at the same time, if you have no distributor or an idea of who to have as your distributor, then nobody will finance the thing. So it was not a film that we needed to go to festivals with, because we were not looking at festivals or through festivals to find a distributor. We had found and are very grateful to have as our partner Roadside Attractions in this thing. And they're putting the film out there in theaters in a wide way on September 7th.
That's awesome. Yeah, most films are kind of more of like Too Many Cooks thing, where everybody gets in there and has an opinion. So it sounds like you were able to keep everything kind of in-house.
Well, again, yeah, at least from the point of view of making a film differently, what we wanted to do was, make a film that's different from other films. And I think you're absolutely right in saying that other films are made with a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So on the fundamental DNA level of the film, we were trying to make the film without a lot of cooks in the kitchen, because we believed that like every other thing we were doing, writing it in 2 different languages, writing it as a dialogue, writing it, producing it in the way we were doing, that would all come together to make a different kind of film that would have a different kind of feel and style and offer a unique kind of experience that would be really compelling to people.
And then, so watching the trailer, it kind of reminded me of like Brave New World and They Live and all these other things. And there's this other movie that has a really bad rap, I feel, but I love it, Josie and the Pussycats. That has branding everywhere and stuff.
Oh, sure, it does, yeah.
So you're obviously familiar with the films. Like, what do you think of that movie and how they handled branding and like?
Oh no, I think all of those are actually very strong films. I agree with you about Josie and the Pussycats too. In fact, I think people have been posting some comments online to that effect, that they like Josie and the Pussycats.
I love that movie.
It really had some meaningful things to say about branding. Yeah, absolutely. And They Live is a very strong film about branding. I can tell you that where the rabbit hole leads in this film is to a place that's much more dark, sinister, and unexpected than Aliens. So I think that our film is very different from those films.
Yeah. And then so the creatures that like kind of follow everyone that the guy sees, are they aliens? Are they like what are they?
Well, that's what I was saying. They are of an origin that is part of the origin of advertising, and it's an origin that you would never see coming. That has something to do with the Soviet Union, has something to do with some ancient rituals, has something to do with things you've never seen and can't see, and that having seen them will have to, at least in the case of our hero, make him find powers in himself that he didn't know he had. So they are, they are not exactly aliens, no.
Okay, keep the mystery. We'll all figure it out when it comes out this fall.
Well, I think it's just one of those things where it doesn't. I can't fit to you into a sound bite truly, what those things are. I'm not trying to, even kind of not give you an answer. It's just really the whole mythology of the film or the whole mystery of the film that unfolds throughout the film is, what are these things, and what do they say to you, and when you find out what they are, how does that change how you really look at the world?
Very cool. And then just last question. Is this your first Comic-Con, and what are your thoughts on this whole experience so far?
Oh, no, it is my first Comic-Con, and I'm definitely going to come back. 'Cause I think truly, I think it's actually kind of an amazing thing, and it's obviously on a bigger scale than I could have even known, and I'd heard it was big. But one of the things I think is fantastic about this is it's one of the last refuge for independent kinds of new voices to emerge. I mean, I had a friend last year who came down here who was not of the comic book industry whatsoever, who just had an idea for a comic book and some drawings, and came down and said, well, I know who I can talk to, I've heard their names, I'm going to find them on the floor and pitch this thing, and I'll get a deal. And I literally laughed at him. And he went down here and came back with a deal with literally the third largest publisher of comic books.
Wow.
So I think that speaks to the fact that you can actually have a meaningful dialogue that ends up with new kinds of voices and new kinds of works of art that I don't know the analog of that in motion pictures. I mean, that's an amazing thing.
Yeah, I love Comic-Con. This is my 7th year coming, so.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah, I've been coming since high school just because I was like, people like me. So.
How do you compare it to WonderCon? Is it?
I've only been to one other one, the one in Los Angeles. I think it's WizardCon, and it's much smaller in scale, and it's much more comic book focused. And like I'm much more TV and movie focused. So I thought it was cool, and there's definitely a lot of costumes and like stuff to see, but there's no beating Comic-Con.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you bet. Yeah.